everyone's dream when you move into New Zealand to start a new lifestyle and maybe get a boat, go out on the water. But how safe is that?
The dad and the boy were on board like that. Complete shock, meltdown, couldn't even talk. So we just got them to the front of the boat while we worked on getting this kid out. We managed to get the kid out, got him on the boat, and the boat sank. We just never found again. That boat disappeared.
Today you're going to meet Andrew from powerboattraining.co.nz. Andrew has got a business that trains people how to go out on the boat safely, and he's got lots and lots of good stories and a really cool Irish accent. So let's jump on in and meet Andrew.
It's a Drama, coming to you from Taranaki, New Zealand.
Hello.
Daddy, I love him!
Mother thanks you.
Right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
Andrew, welcome to the podcast. Really, really happy to have you here with us today.
Hi, Liz and Brian. It's great to be here. Thank you very much.
Do you know, Andrew, you're our first real, proper Irish person that we've had on this podcast, isn't he, Brian? Like with a proper Irish accent like you've got.
Yeah.
I tell you, if I ever lost the Irish accent, I wouldn't be welcome back home. So I have to work very hard and call home regularly to maintain that accent, you know?
Yeah.
Oh.
What is it with the Scottish people and Irish people and Welsh people? They never lose the accent.
No, never.
I know. I don't know what. And one other thing I've learned as well, having known lots of Scots, is get them to say burglar alarm. Just can't say it. It's one of the funniest things you'll ever hear. Just remember that one next time we talk.
I'll write that down. So, Andrew, we've got so much to get through on this episode. I'm just going to jump straight in. Can you just introduce yourself and just let us know why you're in New Zealand talking to Liz and Brian on this podcast and who you are and what you do? So, yeah, just let us all know.
Okay, well, there's a big question, and I'll give you the Reader's Digest version to start with, I think. I'm Andrew Flanagan. I was actually born in Galway in the west coast of Ireland, and I was there for about 19 years. I think I left, and that's where I first actually got my taste into water safety, because I was a lifeguard on the west coast beaches in Ireland, and I was actually one of the youngest at the time, which was a great little privilege to be. So I got a real taste and a bit of vibrancy for a bit of drama as well. I think in there's probably set off my life. And so I was 17 when I started that, but then I went to university in Kent in the UK, because maybe I wasn't smart enough to get into university in Ireland. Maybe my parents didn't tell me, I don't know, but I ended up over in the UK in Canterbury University. I was reading electronic engineering. So I did that. And then once living in Kent, there's a place in Kent called Whitstable, which is just right on the coast. It's on the estuary to the Thames. And I actually got involved, and there's a bit of a story about how I got involved with the RNLI, which is the Royal National Lifeboat Institution in Kent. And I was just volunteer crew at that station. Now, majority in the UK are volunteers, so you're a volunteer crew whilst you have a job. The work obviously has to permit you to leave when the pager goes off. And then during that period, the RNLI, the head office in Poole, which is where all the full-time staff, we got connected. Long story there as well, but I became a trainer for them, and that was a full-time trainer. So in a nutshell, for 6 years, I spent down in Cowes in the Isle of Wight, where they still build the inshore lifeboats, and I was doing all the training. So all the crews from the UK and the Irish coast would come down, and there was a team of 6 instructors down in the south of the UK, and we'd teach each of these crew for over a week-long period on the course and all manner of search and rescue techniques. We take them on and put them into interesting situations. And again, lots of stories there. And then just moving on. So I spent 6 years there. I'll never forget it. When I first started the job, I remember thinking it was crazy. There was helicopters for the interview process. Actually, obviously, we'd go through all the assessments and interviews, but the final stage was actually a scenario-based exercise to see how we were responding. There was helicopters and hovercrafts and boats. And I remember thinking, I think I was 27 at the time. I thought, this is the most amazing. If I ever get this job, I'll never move on. And lo and behold, 6 years later, you start getting the itchy feet, because even doing helicopter exercises every Thursday for 6 years, hovercraft operations, all the rough weather handling, day and day, it does become a little bit samey, even though it appears very dramatic. So I got an offer from British Petroleum, a subsidiary actually called Vector Offshore, to become a search and rescue commander in the North Sea aboard a 20-metre boat, which is launched off a 110-metre ship. At the time, it was the largest ship launch vessel in the world. That was entertaining, because being a first, we discovered lots of errors and problems and bits and pieces. So after that, and then we decided to move to New Zealand in 2009, and the intention was to simply just become a skipper. I thought we'd just come across here, had a young boy, he was 18 months old, come across, do the family thing, I'll just become a skipper. So I said, surely an island nation in the middle of the Pacific would have a massive maritime environment, but that's not the case. Because when I rocked up here, I realized if you don't want to be a ferry skipper, or you don't want to be a charter boat skipper, having your eyes gouged out by some angry passengers if you don't find the fish, there's not much really here for you outside the niche sort of pilot boat jobs. Now, just to clarify as well, so my qualification essentially really allows me to skipper up to 200 tons. So my speciality is anything under 200 tons, which is generally about 25 meters in length. So those size vessels, they're just really sort of niche, and it's very difficult to find a job doing that here. So it's actually kind of really pushed into becoming self-employed, and I just fell back on my training expertise, and I set up a powerboat training here in New Zealand. I've been running for, what's it now, 12, 13 years. And so hopefully that's given you a bit of an idea of where I am, what I'm about.
Well, first of all, I've got to say...
Very Irish.
Yeah. And one thing you just reminded me, Brian, I've been told that I need to slow down when I speak. So if I start rabbiting away,
you just...
You've just given us, 40 odd years. 2 minutes.
But you didn't understand a word of it.
No, it's like you said tree twice, and I don't think there's a limit for 3.
I get that a lot.
Do you know what, Andrew? That's what I was going to say. I don't think I'm always accused of speaking really fast. They're like, "Oh, slow down, Liz. You're speaking too fast." And I don't think I've ever met anyone who speaks quite as quickly as you do. But I did understand every word. But I want to unpack what you've just said, because thank you for explaining all that. Because I think if someone asked me to explain our life in the last 30 years, I'd be there forever. So well done for doing that. That was brilliant. So just to clarify, you left Ireland, you went to Kent to go to university. Is that right?
Do you let anyone in there?
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
So you started off volunteering, and then you got that paid job, the big job with the helicopters and the rescue. And is that right? Have I got that right? Right.
Yeah. So the helicopters obviously work quite tight with the rescue vessels in the UK, and it's obviously in our interest to understand how to formate underneath the helicopters and how to work with them, what to expect. So we bring our crews out when they actually drop a winchman down. There's different types of formation. You can do static, high line, underway transfers and things like that. We drill those. We used to do that every Thursday. It was a highlight of the course attendees.
Right.
Well, that's what I just want to unpack, because to me, it just sounds like, wow, this is like you're living in a beautiful part of England. You've got a very, very exciting, it's like Tom Cruise, isn't it, Brian? It's like an Irish Tom Cruise. Okay? It's brilliant. Why would you want to leave that? So what I want to know, I do want to talk to you about what you're doing in New Zealand and the fact that you've got this fantastic training course for people. And we're going to talk all about, the boats in New Zealand and things like that. But first, I just want to be a bit nosy and get into your personal life. So you've got you said you had a small child, didn't you? You said, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah. I've got a boy and a girl now. Now my boy is now 14, almost 15, and my daughter is 12. So she was born in New Zealand.
Right. So you're living in this lovely part of England. You've met your wife. You've had a small family. Why New Zealand? What made you think, oh, hang on a minute, I want more than this? Why?
Well, it's an interesting one, that, and funnily enough, I met my wife at I was doing safety boat courses in Whitstable, so I met my wife quite early on. She's been with me through the process. So why New Zealand? Well, working offshore, I only did it for a couple of years, and it was hard graft, and I've got an appreciation now why offshore work is paid why it is. It's hard. 6 weeks on, 6 weeks off. 12-hour days, and it's like dun-dun, 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 it's relentless, no break, 12-hour day. You sleep as much as you can, and then you get up, you eat, you do your work, you do the documentation, you get your boat ready, you're on the boat, 12-hour shift, and it just doesn't stop. So it's quite hard. And then when the bad weather, the ship can't come out to relieve you, and you've got your cabin all prepped and ready to go for your offsider to come in and relieve you, and their ship doesn't make it, and you're stuck out there. So it was really hard, and especially with a young son, we had that conversation, which is, do we really want this in our lives? Is this the family life that we want? And the answer is kind of no. I think most people would agree that with a young family, it might not be the best environment if you can have another option. So we had been to New Zealand previously. We'd actually done a camper tour all the way from Cape Reinga all the way down. How far do we get? I think we got down probably Queenstown is as far as we got.
Did you come on a boat?
Well, the ferry, if that counts. We just did the round tour. So we're down the west and back up the east, and we loved the people. And I personally found it was very similar to Ireland. There's a very similar culture to Ireland, more is laid back, and having a comparison to the UK. I do feel that the one thing I love is empty beaches. I mean, you get that in Ireland. You don't get that in the UK. Well, obviously, there would be places in Scotland, what have you. But where I came from, beaches are packed and, there's people everywhere. And being Irish, I'm a bit of a, I can be a bit of a lone wolf at times and kind of like my own company on times to kind of decompress and stuff. It's nice to be able to go and have a wander. So New Zealand really paid. And we did lots of research and we heard brilliant for kids, brilliant for families. And we said, look, we'll give it 5 years. We'll go over, and if it works out, it'll be great. If it doesn't work out, well, hey, we gave it a shot.
Before we jump in and hear all about your brilliant story about how you went self-employed and started this fantastic business that you've got, I do just want to just go back a little bit, because I'm going to link to this video, by the way, in the description and on YouTube and everything, because when we watched that video of that boat capsizing that you're talking about, we were just, weren't we, Barry? We were like, oh my God, how would anyone go? How
you saw that?
We did see it, yeah. And we're just like, how do you pluck the courage up to step out and go, I'm going to help? I mean, I just don't know how you would do that. I mean, just tell me about that for a minute. Just what do you feel like when you see that?
To answer your question, Liz, I think young and dumb. It was almost a year to the day that we did a very big job that actually received an award for, and it was in almost identical conditions that boat capsized in, almost a year to the day. Now, I lived right across the road from the harbour, which annoyed a lot of people at the station, because me and I was sharing my housemate, it was another guy who was on the crew as well. And when the pager goes at 2 a.m, we're the first to that boathouse, because we literally, I mean, there's been times we'd run across the road in our underpants. People would be, what's going on with these guys? So we got all our gear over the boat shed. It was literally just a sprint across the road and straight into the boat shed. It was about, I'd say, a 45-second runaway. And we'd upset everyone because they wouldn't get on the boat because we were making all the jobs, But that's,
so is it like a competition? Who can get on first?
Yeah, it is. Okay. Now, the RNLI has been trying to manage that because, since then they've realised that you can't just have the same people. You got to rotate the experience. Yeah. But it's a complicated one, because if it's a hurry up job, you don't want to be waiting for people to turn up. So if it's a real serious job, just this was how our station operated, whoever turns up goes, and that's it, as long as they agree to go, obviously. So anyway, we turned up, and my God, that night was, that day, I can't remember the time, it was probably about afternoon, I think. But anyway, it was stinking. The wind was stinking. And I remember just running across as we do, and I didn't really think much of it, I just kind of ran across, and it was windy. And we got into the boathouse, we each have a key, and it got in, and we started gearing up. And then the phone rings, and it's Larry, the operations manager, saying, okay, this is a big one, guys. This is a big one. We've got a boat sinking. We've got a dad and his 2 boys. It's sinking off of Herne Bay. So it's a hurry up. So my housemate Seth and husband Dave Parry, we turn up, and we got kitted up, and we're sitting on the boat, and the boat's just in the boat shed, and it's got the tractor, so we just push it out of the shed and then down onto the beach, and away we go. And I'll never forget, we're sitting on the boat, all geared up, and that roller door opening up, and just looking out and thinking, oh boy. And Dave turns around to us and says, are we all happy to go here? And it's like, yeah, let's do this. Because we had something in our favor. When the boat in that capsized video capsized, that was an Atlantic 21. What we had was a replacement at the time, very fortunate. It was a loan boat from the RNLI while our boat was having some repairs, an Atlantic 75. And the big difference between an Atlantic 21 and Atlantic 75 is it's got ballast in the foredeck. And that ballast in the foredeck, in fact, I had the guy who manufactured that ballast system contact me just recently, asking if he could use my story. But we went out, and we reckon if we didn't have that ballast which holds that bow down, we could have been in a very similar situation. So we looked at the odds. We said, look, we got the ballast. Let's give it a go. And we went out, and we managed to get through those similar conditions. So we got out. And then after we started heading off towards Herne Bay, and we just saw the boat right in the distance. They were bailing like crazy to try and keep the boat afloat. And when they saw us, they thought, oh, thank God, help is here. our problems are over. Well, people don't understand your problems are not over. You know, we haven't got a magic people teleporting device. We can't teleport you onto our boat. And equally, it can be quite dangerous for us to come alongside another boat, depending on the circumstances. Yeah. I mean, what's going through our minds as search and rescue people is it's massive dynamic risk assessments all the time. You know, at the end of the day, we've got our order of priority, and your order of priority is you yourself. You're the most important thing on that boat, because if something happens to you, you're of no help to anyone else. And then the next is the boat, and then your crew, and then the actual casualties at the end of the day. So you got to look after ourselves and the boat first, otherwise we're no use to anyone. So we're constantly looking out for the best situation. So Dave Parry he still is. He's actually works in Thames now. He's an incredible helmsman, and he took the time, even though while these guys were bailing, like I was saying, when they saw us, they stopped bailing. We're like, no, don't stop, keep bailing. We're, about 100 meters off of them. Keep bailing. So they didn't really understand, and a big wave just came and swamped the back of that boat, and the bow just reared up like this, and she went down. And we just saw the dad and one of the boys, and we didn't see the third boy. Now, imagine the situation where we've got like ferocious seas here, and we've got a boat that sank. We've got a dad, and we've got a boy and another unknown entity that we don't know where he is. So the assumption is, because this boat had a cabin in it, so as it went down, it caught that boy and took him down. And that's actually reasonably common. That happens. People don't understand that. You can get caught inside a boat, and that's your worst nightmare. So Dave Parry did a great job. He stood off under all this intense pressure, understanding the risks of, like, even things like ropes in the water. If you get a rope around your propeller in those conditions, you're goosed. You're in some serious trouble. Yeah. So we had to keep a good lookout for that. And he gave us a brief. It was just really composed, cool, calm, collected. Okay, this is a situation, fellas. This is what we're dealing with, and these are the roles I need of you. Anyway, long story short, we managed to get in. We managed to locate the kid half inside that cabin as it was bobbing up and down. My housemate Seth, we're preparing him to get into the water. We've got, lifelines and stuff we use. We're getting all those prepared. You do develop a certain superhuman strength when it comes to getting people out of the water at those times. So the dad and the boy were on board like that. Complete shock, meltdown, couldn't even talk. So we just got them to the front of the boat while we worked on getting this kid out. We managed to get the kid out. Got him on the boat, and the boat sank. We just never found again. That boat disappeared. So that was my introduction to boating, and that was pretty incredible. So kind of set my path and reinforced, what I'm about. To be fair,
can I just say, I mean, I'm sure people say this to you all the time, but God, thank you so much for what you do. Thank you so much.
Look, it's a two-way street as well. Everyone who does search and rescue, they do it because they enjoy it, and it's the feeling it gives you as well. You feel that you're having meaning, and you feel that you're creating positive outcomes, and that gives you a good internal sense of achievement, I think. So yeah, we wouldn't do it if we didn't enjoy doing it, and there is a bit of a buzz, and there is a bit of adrenaline as well, but it needs to be controlled. Adrenaline very, very, very much needs to be controlled in those situations, and that's actually
No, go on.
No, I was just going to say, and that's actually a part of my Instagram thing as well, is just trying to promote all these little lessons learned, that I can use videos that you see of accidents and errors where people made mistakes, not to shame people, but to use them as learning and lesson points for people to actually understand. And a lot of the comments I get from my social media content is, wow, I never realized that could happen. And it's the first time I've been able to show people what I see, or I had seen on a daily basis previously. And it used to intently, I don't know if frustrate's the right word, but when you're trying to tell someone, watch out for that rope. If you stand in that rope, do you understand what can happen? They have no idea. And they've no, yeah. But I've seen what happens. I've seen someone, I've had to put someone on a stretcher, without a foot because they've stepped in that line. I understand it, but now I can show them, not necessarily losing a foot, but you can use these videos as great informational, I call it edutainment. A little bit as well, And
I just want to talk about your Instagram account for a minute again, because what's the name of your Instagram account?
So it's at powerboat.training is the Instagram account.
At powerboat.training. I'm telling you, to everyone out here who's listening and watching this, just go and watch those videos. Me and Brian were having lunch at the time because I'd just spoken to you on the phone, and I thought, oh, I'll just stalk you a bit and see who you are and find out what you're doing. And we were having lunch, and we were just, like you say, it was like one after the other.
They're addictive, aren't they?
Oh my God, I never knew that could happen.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. What is this idiot doing that's driving? I mean, some of those videos, you cannot actually believe that people are doing that on boats, can you, Andrew?
Yeah.
You must
It's
just
unbelievable.
be so frustrated. But let's use that now to talk about how when you came to New Zealand, and you wanted to get a job, like you say, as a skipper, and that didn't happen. So you started your own business. Talk to us about the business that you've started since being in New Zealand.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I want to say to start with is how I think New Zealand is a great country for business, for small businesses. Certainly was when I was starting. I don't know if it's the same environment now, but what I mean by that is you get access to managers of big organizations fairly easily. I mean, I've tried. I had a little business. I won't go into it back in the UK, just doing a little bit of skipper recruitment as a sideline. But it's very hard to get access to business and let them know who you are. But in New Zealand, everyone's just a phone call away, or they work at the time. And you can just have, it's great, and you can just
it's like living in
send an email.
Yeah. It's like living in a town, but it's a whole country, isn't it?
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's got that vibe about it. So I actually really quite enjoy doing it now. It was so, we turned up, as I say, and started looking for skippering work, and there just wasn't out there. So I said, right, I'll have to set up my business now. We were on finite finances as well. We couldn't keep ourselves going for years without some sort of income. So I said, look, I'll set this up, school. So in New Zealand, there's a real emphasis on theory-only training. And because of my experience of where I've come from and our focus, and in fairness, most other countries focus on practical training for boats, I felt there was a real area that needed to be kind of addressed. So I set up my school, and it's essentially, I'm a recognised RYA school. So what does that mean? RYA is Royal Yachting Association. Now, I could give you sort of an analogy that the RYA is to recreational boating what PADI is to scuba diving, if you're familiar with that. They're the recreational sort of governing body internationally. They're a not-for-profit organisation based in Southampton in the UK. So I'm a recognised school, and I've always been affiliated. The RNLI, when we train our crew, they're all recognised, and they received at the time RYA certification. So I set up an RYA school here. It wasn't easy. As I say, it was easy access to people, but trying to get the customers in the door is very challenging. And I'll tell you, the biggest issue I have is trying to get people to understand the benefits of practical training versus just sitting in a classroom, or even worse, I feel now, is just doing an online course. Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. It's got its place and its merit. It's great as a start. I love people to turn up to my courses who've done the online course, so I don't have to spend that time teaching them about the buoys and the collision rules. We can go out and implement the knowledge, which is really the powerful point. Because when you're sitting in a classroom or doing an online test, here's your vessel, and there's a boat approaching from this direction. Who gives way? Ooh, well, that's not the case in the Waitematā, because here's your vessel, and here's another 40 that are coming at you. What do you do now? And you can only emulate that by actually being out there and making allowances for other people's lack of education, because we need to know what to do when other people don't know what to do. And they all kind of come out. So I set up my business, and it was tough going to try and build it. But slowly, again, talking to harbour masters, talking to companies, just talking to people, even just saying, hey, could I come out and just run a course for you and see what your staff thinking? Just, a few of those. And people start realising, heck, this guy actually seems to know what he's talking about. And actually, the most important thing for me when you're training is we're having fun, and the students at the end of the course go away thinking, whoa, that was amazing. What a lot of fun that was. And they're raving about it. When they go back to their employer and say, that was, and I've actually had some people say, some fairly people like with life experience say, that was one of the best courses I've ever done. Workplace course. And it's like, just because you get out and you're in the environment and you're having great fun, you're learning all this fun stuff in a fun environment. And I'm not the old salty sea dog, go don't be doing this, don't be doing that. I'm more sort of have a bit of a laugh about stuff, make mistakes, make loads of mistakes. I'll be there to have your back when you're on the boat. I'll make sure we don't get into trouble, but I want you to learn from your mistake. Oh, you shouldn't have done that. You say, well, yeah, okay, so start proliferating through that, and then slowly but surely, I've actually got quite a good reputation in New Zealand now for our practical courses. We're quite busy. I'm trying to expand it because, again, the only courses, and it's a little bit through market dominance, in my view, the only courses that are being promoted are these theory and online courses, which, as I say, they're a great start and introduction to boating, but they don't go anywhere near to producing competent, skilled boaters at the end of it.
So let me just be clear. The course that you teach is how to run a it's my ignorance. Excuse, please. I'm apologising in advance. I don't know anything about boating, but how to drive a boat, what to do when you're on a boat. Is that what you're teaching?
Yeah, great question. And in fairness, Liz, having someone with your experience ask me these questions is perfect, because if you don't understand this stuff, there'll be so many other people who wouldn't understand. And look, I focus on powerboating. Now, it's interesting because sailboats, generally speaking, people know, I better actually go and get someone to show me which strings to pull, So most people, when they buy a yacht, go, what the heck does this do? And what the heck does that do? And they don't know. But when they go to buy a powerboat, particularly like a trailer boat, even though it does happen for larger vessels, some of the sneaky old dealers, they're just quite keen to make that sale. And they'll say to you, and I've actually heard this, if you can drive a car, you can drive a boat on your way, and it's like they don't want to let you know that it is challenging, it is tricky, because they might lose that sale. So what do I teach? And the answer is I teach proficient maneuvering in a marina. One of the most stressful things you can do on a boat is parking it. Utterly, I can imagine with the yacht, definitely. And every boat has its own characteristics, and you need some quite seasoned expertise to feel comfortable. So if I get enough time with you, I will take someone who's really nervous and apprehensive of parking the boat, and it's the worst part of their boating day, to actually, this isn't such a big deal. I can do this. What's all the fuss about? Might not get it the first time, but I'll sure as eggs be able to take it out and bring it back in the second time, So that's one aspect. The next one is, my priority is that one, but also rock avoidance. I actually work with some companies that we do checks on people who are using their boats. So we get lots, and this will lead into another conversation in the future, but there's a very divisive community in boating. I don't know if you guys have come across, but they're very divisive. You get, there's a term called Dunning-Kruger. I don't know if you've come across that term. But Dunning-Kruger is starting to come out a bit nowadays for whatever reason, but it's about people underestimating their experience and skill set. So they don't have the skill to understand how much skill they're actually lacking, if that makes sense. Yeah, and that's called the Dunning-Kruger effect, that they think they know more than they do. And they come out swinging, telling you everything you're doing is wrong, and this is wrong, and that's, and they know exactly what they're doing. So in my time in the RNLI, I've been trained. In the RNLI, I've been well trained in how to teach, because we get all salty sea dog goats in the RNLI, the old boys, and I was like, when I was working full time for the RNLI, I was 27 years old. And I had these old goats, and they'd be coming in and they'd be telling me that they know everything, and their family has been rescuing people at sea for the past 100 years. And I absolutely have to respect that. But equally, their tactics and the way they operate the boats might be getting a little bit aged, and we've got better ways of doing this. And we've now got technology that they're not using appropriately. So we've got to be very cautious and careful in how we approach this, because if you say the wrong thing to these guys, you've lost them, and the heckles are up and they're off. So my strategy of training is very much demonstration. So we go out, and then when I'm checking people, I say, right, I do my best to tell you verbally how to avoid rocks. I said, right, here's how you check your chart. Here's how you check your electronic plotter. This is what you need to look out for. Give them a full brief. Let's go out and see if you can implement it. And invariably, I can always I don't line people up for failure, but I will set them on a path that they need to be aware and divert around those rocks, or else, and it'll be a tricky one. It'll be one of those ones where you have to zoom out on the plotter or zoom in because the rocks disappear when you zoom out type thing. And they won't, they come in at the wrong place and they won't zoom out the right time. And I'll just step in at the last minute. I go, stop the boat, make a bit of a song and dance, a bit of drama about it. And go, whoa, there's a rock there, buddy. And they're like, whoa, my God. And the biggest thing that people take away from that is the amount of caution that they need to exercise. So actually getting out on the boat and showing them how fast stuff goes wrong. When you're coming into a bay, you're coming in a bit fast here, and you chat to them and they forget to look at the depth sounder and things like that, and it's fun and they enjoy it. And it's not a negative experience where people feel horrible at the end of the day. It's an eye-opening experience. And especially when people make the mistakes and you can tell them, do you know what? You've made that mistake, but here's how you're not going to ever make it again. And they love it. And we get couples turning up as well. And look, in my experience, just the general dynamics. So look, one of my best friends, Amy Mangan, is an RNLI trainer. She's one of the best boat handlers and one of the best instructors I know. But in my general experience, just couples on boats, it tends to be, the guy is doing the driving and the wife is doing the crewing. It's just kind of the dynamic how it sometimes unfolds. And the feedback we get from both of them, especially the wives as well, is, oh, I am so pleased we came when we did this course. Because now I know what we need to be looking out for, and I feel empowered. And because she's empowered now, she now knows how to look at the chart. So if he's off getting distracted, you got a 2IC here who's got a little bit, of nous and understands what to look out for. You can't teach that in a classroom. You can't teach that on a piece of paper. So that's all the sort of stuff. Do anchoring, and I do advanced course with heavy weather handling and stuff. Don't do too many of those. I'm very specific about who I'll teach those with. But yeah, so that's the sort of stuff I do.
So your course because I've had a look at your course and it looks absolutely fabulous. Like you've just said, all the things that you teach. How do you teach that practically? What do you take a group of people out, or how does that work?
So there's two methods. So I've got like a school boat, which is a little 6-meter atomic. So if you haven't got access to a boat and you're looking to buy one, you just ring us up and we'll put a course on for you with 3 people. So we'll generally, you can bring 3 people with you, or we'll source 3 people who are looking to learn how to drive a boat. We'll put them on our boat, give them a few days on that. Generally, it's 2 days is enough to make someone basically competent, where they're not going to run over some rocks. They've got a fighting chance of parking the boat. So we'll do that. And then we've got the other option, which is own boat tuition as well, where someone who buys their own boat and they wisely realize that actually this isn't as easy as I thought it was, because boats don't have brakes. So maybe I'll just get someone. And the great thing is I can hop on your boat, and because we've been doing this, I've got a few instructors who help me out as well. And because we've been doing this for so long, there's not a production boat in New Zealand that we're not intimately familiar with. We've pointed out stuff and things you need to be looking out for on that boat. And people love it, and that's what we do.
I just want to circle back as well before we let you go, because I know we've kept you for a while now, but I just want to go back to the fact that people who move into New Zealand, just like me and Brian, we're a prime example of this. You move to New Zealand for a better lifestyle. Everyone knows that. You move, we've got more space, we've got, it's a better quality of life. It's just, we've got more time. And invariably, lots of people go out and buy a boat. They think, just like we did. We didn't own a boat in the UK, but now we've got a boat sitting in the driveway, haven't we, Brian? How big is our boat?
It's a 16-foot Bonito.
Right.
Nice.
It's quite an old boat, but it cost me about $5,000, I suppose, all in all. But I did a bit of a deal with someone else, trade for a trade as such, like. But
you'd done your safety thing, hadn't you?
I did my RYA back in the UK. Gotcha. Yeah, it was my day skipper license, which was shore based because it was like an 18-week course. So it was a full-blown navigation, everything else. But my friend had a yacht, and that's why I took it, because it was so scary. I remember we were going off Land's End, and it was starting to get rough. And I just looked around and no one had any life jackets on, and everyone's just sitting there on the edge of the boat, like, leaning up against the rails and things. We're on full sail, and we're now can't see over the next wave. So I think, right, I'll go down and get all the life jackets, because this is starting to get a bit hairy, like, before we turn round. And as soon as I went down below, I'm like, I'm nearly throwing up because next minute everything's so disorientating, like, you know. But I come back up and give everyone life jackets. No one wants to put one on. And I'm like, this is like, it's pretty dangerous, this, like, you know, where we are. And, you know, especially when you're coming off Land's End. Oh, it was actually off the Lizard. That's where we come in.
How old were you?
Oh, yeah.
Probably 24 at the time.
So
25.
they were like trying to be cool and be like, oh yeah,
just-
we don't need our life
just
jackets.
Everyone's just out there drinking, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, I just ended up turning to say, come on, should we turn around and let's get back? But, you know, anyway. And that night we moored up in Myler Harbour outside the pub, and the tide went out. And the boat's at about a 30 degree leaning off the pier, because I went back out and said, we've got about just under a metre of water under the keel. Should we head out? Oh, we'll just finish the drinks first. We get out, bump, because it was a spring tide, and yeah, we had to stay the night there.
Young and dumb. It always boils down to it.
A classic, you know.
But all that. Go on.
I was going to say, all those experiences and everything that you've learned throughout that process, we all make mistakes, you know, like that, you know, and that's all part of it as well. And what to say, TPEJ is the method to get to competency: training, practice, experience, and judgment. It all gives you judgment, and that's what it's about. And so you need the training to start with, practice what we train, and then you get the real world experience like you're discussing there, and then that you will never make those mistakes again, because that will give you judgment for the next time. And yeah, you know, so you can turn those negatives into positives. But I know exactly what you're saying, Brian.
Yeah, and hitting rocks. I remember I was up on the paragliding, I was out on the actual parachute. My friend is driving the boat, so I'm going along, and I'm like, we're going to hit that big bar, you know, and it's just rocks, it's not a sandbar. And he's like, next thing I see the boat bouncing. Ooh. And I'm like, so, and then I'm drifting over towards the trees and landed in a hawthorn tree.
Oh my God!
You know, and it's just like, no,
yours, were they, Brian?
we were absolute idiots. I mean, you see what we used to do to the rivermen. We used to trim it up and try and drown their boat, like, you know, because they were.
Oh yeah.
So we were really quite bad. So, but I totally. That's why I went and took the course, because I thought, I don't want to say. If I ever get a boat, I'm not going to be doing those sort of crazy things, like, you know, especially when you're family. You just think.
Absolutely. Well, you're still here now, so you must have made some good decisions along the way.
Yeah, we did. I tell you, in New Plymouth, we took the boat out, and I don't often take it out to the sea because I don't particularly like taking the boat, because it's quite old. It's got an old Evinrude engine on it, and I thought I'll just keep it to fresh water so we can get ashore pretty easy and everything. But we went out one day, didn't we? And we had our neighbours' kids with us. We put everyone in life jackets. And everyone's sort of looking at us because we all had these bright red Suzuki life jackets on, like, you know, whether they were just pointy, they weren't life jackets. But so and then we go out, we come back in, and the Coast Guard comes up to me and he goes, "Can I just commend you on?" And I'm looking around trying to get the boat in. You know, he said that it was so good to see a whole big family going out with all your buoyancy aids on and everything correct. You know, all in wetsuits as well. And I was really shocked. And you just think, then you start looking at other people and you think, there's no one going out with anything. They're just getting in this boat and going out to sea. And you're like, what?
And Brian, you actually touch on a really important point there as well, which is the culture around life jackets. I don't know if you heard about that. I can't remember the name of the vessel, but sank in the Kypra a couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago. Well, reading the report on that, again, there was a culture on board that they just weren't wearing life jackets. And even though there was a huge sea state, no one on board wanted to wear the life jackets. And a few of them actually drowned because they fell overboard. That boat sank, in fact, and they ended up in the water, and just because they weren't wearing life jackets. What people need to understand is that once you're in the water, it's too late. You can't source and don a life jacket when you're in the water. Yeah. So you've learned some really valuable lessons there. And that's why you will never see me training on a boat ever with anybody not wearing life jackets. And in fairness, nowadays you've got the inflatable ones which come with responsibilities. You need to make sure that the service, you have to get it checked every year. It's people who can do it, or you can learn how to do it, but don't ever get an inflatable life jacket and just throw it in the bottom of your boat, because I'm telling you, it will not perform as expected if you don't. But yeah, so there's these nice small life jackets. You wouldn't even know you're wearing them. You know, you don't need to wear those big foam ones if you don't. But yeah, so yeah, it's a really valuable point, that one, I think. And
So two things before I let you go then, Andrew. So one, so bearing in mind that we've got that boat, and I told you that story to say that Brian had taken his training and we were all, we were feeling safe when we go out because you've taken that course and we know, we're in good hands. But say if you did turn up to New Zealand and you bought a little boat like ours, because it's nothing flash or massive or anything, would you recommend taking a safety course, or would you just think, your boat doesn't warrant, it's not big enough to warrant a safety course? What would you be on that?
In fact, you could argue the smaller the boat, the more dangerous it is.
Right.
The smaller the boat, the more susceptible it is to the conditions. Smaller waves will capsize you on a smaller boat, and you'll end up in the water quicker on a smaller boat. The propeller's a lot closer to you on a smaller boat if you do end up in the water. So 100%, it doesn't matter if it's a jet ski or even a small little inflatable boat. You need to know the basics. And I'll just give one cautionary thing as well. We did mention about online and the education I'm doing online. The opposite is also true. There was a situation in New Zealand in Bluff, and there was a guy in, I think it was 2014 in Bluff. He learned, this is an article in the Herald, I remember reading it at the time, it's still online. He learned how to sail on YouTube completely. So didn't get any professional courses, just was taking all these random people who we don't actually know their skill sets and we don't know their level of competence. And he took that advice. He set sail, and on his maiden voyage, he was never seen again on that boat. Hey, never seen again. Because it's so, the moral of that story is you really got to know where you're getting information from. One thing I just like to say as well on my Instagram is I get a lot of people, and again, it's such a divisive nature. You have to have thick skin to do what I do, I can assure you, with some of the comments I get. But people don't understand that because of the breadth of my experience, when I see, you'll notice on my videos that when you see an incident on a boat, I'm not talking about that specific brand of boat and how we operate that brand of boat, which I get a lot of comments about. Oh, don't be so stupid. That boat's got a foot throttle, not a hand throttle that you're giving the lessons on. I don't care. I'm not interested in that. I'm just interested in giving the kind of the generalistic advice that will keep you safe in all vessels, and I'll make it clear what I'm referring to. So I would just like to caveat that with saying that if you are learning online and you do choose to go down that option, just be sure that your source comes from a recommended, accredited and recognized provider is all I would say, because you really don't know who you're listening to online anymore.
But it's completely different, like you say. When you get on the water, it all changes. Like, it's like you say, it's not hard to get in a boat when you get in the back and there's a ladder to get up because you've been skiing and stuff like that. But most boats don't have that. Fishing boats don't, do they? And it's just like you might be a meter down, and it's like you can't get back in that boat because it's just impossible.
I can't believe that, and I honestly can't believe this, that you're allowed to imagine just saying, if you'd never taken a driving test, oh, there you go, there's the keys to my really super fast Ferrari, just go and give that a spin. I know you've never had a lesson in your life, but just give it a go anyway. I can't believe that people are allowed in boats around other people, like, swimmers and fishermen and people on the water, and they're operating these boats with no license, Brian, no experience, no. And not
only that, you can have a drink as well.
Yeah. Now, well, I'll just, because I've got some views on that, Liz, and there's some great points. I think let's look at now. Again, I've worked in many countries along the way around the world, and I've seen different sort of authorities and how they regulate. Let's talk about the UK and Ireland. They don't require licenses in UK or Ireland either. Now, UK and Ireland, we're not without our problems with regards to boating there, but I've encountered there's a slightly different culture in the UK and Ireland, where people, when they get a boat, for whatever reason, I have a hypothesis on this, but for whatever reason, they seem to have the nous to go, I've got a boat, I should probably look at getting some education. Now, why is that? Here's my theory. It might be completely wrong. This is purely speculative, but I think it's the water is cold where we come from. And if you fall in the water where we come from, if your boat sinks where we come from, you've got an hour. And if you're not found in an hour, that's it. You're not going home, under most circumstances, if you haven't got protective equipment on. But in New Zealand, that's a little bit different. If you fall out of a boat in New Zealand, because people being pulled out of the Manukau Harbour here in Auckland, 24 hours later, and they're a bit cold and a bit worse for wear, but because they were wearing a buoyancy aid, they actually do end up being found alive. So I do wonder, is there a little bit more complacency around water? Maybe for that reason. Look, I don't know, but there's definitely something slightly different. And one other thing I'd like to add is there's a big uproar now and a big cry in New Zealand that, we want a license in this country, and there's a big drive for it. Now, I would just caution that. Now, this might sound unusual coming from me, but I would caution that call, because a rush to licensing hasn't worked in many states in America, as is illustrated by the videos that I'm showing. A lot of my videos come from states which require licensing, and I don't see them behaving any better. Yeah. So in those states, they have a license that you can do when you're at school at 14, and you do one online exam after doing, a few hours of learning, and you just get signed off, and that's your license for the rest of your life. That's a waste of money, resources, and effort, in my opinion. And I feel, and my concern is that we're going to leapfrog the practical component here in New Zealand. So if we do go down the licensing route, I think we're going to line ourselves up for trouble, because there's not the practical training infrastructure en masse in New Zealand. So the obvious outcome would be theory licensing, with an online test. So again, I feel that, well, let's think about this for a second. Should we not try and rule with the carrot as opposed to the stick approach here? Let's try it at least by saying, look, we do have a problem with powerboats. We do. So why don't we get people aware en masse that there's practical training available? Because I'll bet you before our conversation, you didn't know there was practical training available in this country. No. And that's a big issue. So I would say, let's get people aware, and let's get them out on our boat and let them have fun, and let them tell their friends how fun the course is. Yeah. And let's try and build that way, rather than just coming in with the big stick and beating everyone over and telling them they must pass some online course that realistically is not going to change outcomes, in my opinion, if it's not structured properly.
Yeah. You just assume everyone's going to be sensible, don't you? I think that's what it is. You just tend to think that, it's like getting a horse and not going for a horse riding lesson. It's just, I don't know. You just tend to assume that people would. But the other thing I just want to say, and I promise I'll let you go then. All right. I promise.
You're good.
The other thing I wanted to say as well, and just to give me your opinion on this, is the other, I don't know if this is like a Kiwi mentality. I don't know if it's like an old school thing. So here's an example. The other day, the kid up the road crashes his car. He turns it upside down. He's upside down, laying in the middle of the road, up the road from us. Literally just 50 meters up the road. Yeah. We come around the corner, and I'm like, oh my! I just thought I was going to faint. I was like, oh my God, there's been an accident. Shall I call the police? No. All the neighbours come out, and they weren't laughing, but they were kind of like, oh well, that's how you learn. This is it. And I honestly couldn't believe it. I was like, is no one going to cry their eyes out here and really get panicky and really give this kid a... It could have killed someone, because he's the road, serious stuff. And you're all here acting as if it's like, oh, well, it's part of the lesson, Now, I don't know whether, and I don't know this, I've got no idea, I'm just making this up, but I wonder, and you'll be able to tell me that, I would imagine there's lots of people in New Zealand who are like, do you know what? You just get on a boat and you give it a go, and if it capsizes, it capsizes. You'll be all right. She'll be good. She'll be right.
She'll be right.
Yeah, she'll be right. Do you come across that, and do you have to battle that? And also, I'm asking you, do you see in the younger generation of Kiwis coming through that they're more, open to learning and just being more sensible and thinking, no, we've got to get proper training?
Yeah, great question, and good perception there as well, because absolutely right. I feel that, firstly, with regards to that incident, on a side note, I do wonder, has social media maybe desensitized us within, some components, seeing all these horrible videos that we see online of all these incidents that we see people reacting inappropriately to emergency situations online. So maybe there's a component to there. But more importantly, coming back to the New Zealand culture, 100%, there's definitely a Kiwi Shibi sweet attitude. I get it a lot. And the big thing that I found is even people coming from families who have boats, they think, oh, well, I've been boating for years. My family's been boating for years, and I know what we're doing. And when you actually get to the bottom of it, you have a chat with them. I mean, I go out and these people tell me, oh, I'm only here because I have to for assessment. I don't need your help at all. I get that, reasonably often when I'm doing commercial assessments. And it turns out that they've had, 7 groundings, one fire, 3 man overboard situations, prop strike, and all these things start coming out. And you actually learn that there's been in this country, this is just fact, there's been bad habits in boating passed down through the generations as well. So you're not getting firsthand professional advice, because when I train, it's not me training you, it's my background training you of the professional history and culture that has been drilled and trained into me. So I'm actually teaching good practice and lessons learned from the past because of my professional standing. So the reason I say that is because, yeah, the kids nowadays, it's funny. I'm actually finding that, and I hate the gender talk. I can't stand talk about boomers and Gen Z, this and that. I don't like that sort of talk at all. It really just irks me. But the one thing I do find is that, being Generation X myself, is that my generation is the actually becoming a bit more aware of these things. And I do get a lot of dads now booking courses for their kids because they knew they did dumb stuff and they don't want their kids to do the same stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So I think
they won't listen to the dad neither.
That's so
yeah, absolutely. And I get that a lot too. Hey, I have no chance of teaching these kids, and they sit down quietly when I'm on the boat listening and nodding, and they do seem to embark sometimes what I'm doing. But yeah, it's an interesting one, that, Liz. Really, yeah, I think there's definitely a Kiwi should be sweet attitude. Maybe again it stems into that water temperature thing, that if you capsize, you'd be all good, no problem, no hypothermia to worry about over here, which is a bit false misnomer. But yeah, I do think it's a bit fast and loose.
Like I say, on the North Island is okay, but get down Dunedin, it's pretty damn cold in the water down.
Yeah,
and even
true.
Yeah, true. Even off the East Cape is bloody cold, that water out there. It's like, I'm really shocked. But,
do you know what's funny, actually, Brian? Because I was talking to just yesterday, actually, the harbour master down in Taranaki, and I was talking to him about my videos and stuff, and he was actually saying, because I said it's absolute carnage anywhere up around here on the water. He said it's not actually too bad down here, because I think it's probably because there's fewer people, and his words to me were they actually get short shrift if they're acting the maggot at the boat ramp, because there's a lot of etiquette around a boat ramp, you know, conduct, and if they don't kind of buy into that, they get told and educated in a local capacity. So maybe it's that town culture again, where, you know, there's
a bit of a restaurant bar which is part of the boat club, which looks at the boat ramp, and when you're driving in and out, it's like, I've got to get this one right.
Yeah, I know. Those ones.
I mean, you know, because you always want to just like hit the brakes a bit hard, so boat just launches. You're not allowed to do that, like, you know, and there's no, you can't power your boat onto the trailer, and you're like, it's like, okay.
Do you want to know why, Brian? Are you interested to know why?
Please tell me.
It's actually because of erosion to the ramp. So, you know, it's made out of concrete, and a lot of the times the ramp, it comes down, it looks like there's a drop off at the end. It looks like the council have run out of concrete fund. But what actually happens down there is your wash from your propeller goes down the ramp, and it washes all that away, and it makes that drop worse and worse and worse because of just erosion. And if everyone did it, it can actually damage the concrete. So some places they care, some places they don't. But there you go. Just thought I'd give you that.
Not my boat. that's the other one, is it? My boat wouldn't do that. My boat's different. Yeah.
But the pressure as well, you make me laugh. That's the eyes are burning, though. You can't help but just feel the pressure.
That's it.
So Andrew, I hope every boater that's in New Zealand and you know, it's not just in New Zealand. Is it just in New Zealand that you do it, or can you do it online around the world, or is it just in New Zealand, isn't it?
The practical courses on the water.
Yeah.
So basically what I'm actually working on is a network of schools internationally as well. We're at the early stages of that, but I'm working a network, and shortly be releasing a list where you can actually just go and get a school, because most countries will have practical training schools, to be fair. So yeah, should really and just make sure they're accredited and recognized to a reputable organization if you do get some training.
Yeah, I didn't know the RYA existed over here, so it's great to hear that you're flying the flag over here for that, because it's a fantastic course that I did, and mine was back in, it would have been about 91, 92. So, you know, it was quite a time ago, but it was fantastic, like, you know, and just like you said, that organization, it's brilliant. You know, just their stuff online is amazing as well, like, you know, but to know that you're doing it here and given a recognized certificate that you can take anywhere in the world, can't you?
It's proper, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great.
Where can people find you then, Andrew? Where can they go to find out more about you and to get this, find out more about your courses that you offer?
So our website is powerboat-training.co.nz. So that'll be the first port of call. Obviously on all the social medias as well. We're on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, small presence on YouTube. YouTube is hard to get started on. Yeah. But yeah, and that's the handle there is at powerboat.training. To get hold of us. So if that should be probably the best way. Brilliant.
It's absolutely brilliant. I wish you all the success. And like I say, thank you so much for what you're putting out. The help, the advice, the videos, all of it is it's just fantastic. It's saving lives, and you're doing a brilliant job, Andrew. And I don't care if you talk too fast, you're still really good.
Awesome.
Faster than this.
You can always slow it down. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate that. It means a lot. Thank you.
Okay, Andrew. Fantastic. All right, we'll speak to you soon.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Great to talk to you. Appreciate your time.
Bye, Andrew.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Imagine this. You're a young family who live in the UK and you want to move to New Zealand. But there's just one problem. You've never, ever been to the country. And there's another problem. It's thousands and thousands of miles away at the other end of the earth. So what do you do?
I'm not kind of completely blinkered about New Zealand. And like I say, I don't expect it to be utopia and to be perfect, because nowhere is. Every single place has got its problems and its issues.
In this week's show, you're going to meet Nikki. Nikki moved to New Zealand from England with her family, having never been to this country before in her life. Let's jump on in and find out if New Zealand turned out to be the utopia that she thought it would be.